This
variable,
conference will now be recorded.
static variable we discussed. There is one type of variable when you're using your class methods in OOPS concept. We have one more concept, one more variable called non-static variable. Non-static variable. So the variable which are declared by using the name self are known as non-static variables or instant variables. So for a static variable, you are going to prefix with the class name, and non-static variables you are going to be prefixed with self. And non-static variables are going to be declared within the method. Non-static variables are always defined within the methods, and these non-static variables cannot be declared outside of the methods. In a simple terminology, in a functions we have a local variables in the same fashion. Non-static variables are going to be declared with the help of self. The properties of non-static variables are: if data is changing from one object to another object, then we use non-static variables. For a static variable, we take an example. If Amar, Amini, and Giri are belong to the same company, maybe IBM, so we declare as a static variable. But assume that I'm going to declare a new variable name called name. The names are different for one person to other person. Those are unique. So the name I will declare under non-static variable. Yamini name is different, Amar name is different, and Giri name is different. So those things I will declare under non-static variable. But the company is common for everyone. So I declare under static variable. So if the data is changing from one object to other object, then we use non-static variable. Example: e-name, employee ID, employee designation, and salary. So all these examples what I mentioned here are unique to person, and it can be differ for one person to other person. So we will use it as non-static variable. Maybe the company is common for everyone, so we'll maintain on the static variable. For all the non-static variable of a class, memory will be allocated whenever we create an object. So for a static variable, there is only one time the memory is going to be allocated, and we are going to use the same variable for all the objects. But for non-static variable, memory is going to be allocated for every single object. So how many objects you create, those many number of times the memory is going to be allocated. Hope you're clear what I'm trying to say. Object is used to allocate memory for non-static variables. As I told you, once you create an object, automatically the memory is going to be allocated. So e1.ename equal to Amar. E1 is going to be your object creation variable E1, and ename is going to be the variable name, non-static variable name. So you're going to be assign some name. So E1 is the object which is allocated to the memory for non-static variable and in ename. So going forward, wherever I typed capital NSV, nothing but non-static variable. So whenever the object is created, that memory location is address of the object is going to be taken by the Python interpreter and creates indirect address and called reference variable E1. So as I told here, when you have a static variable, it is creating the memory only once. When you have a non-static variable, for every object, the address is going to be created. So when you see print E1, how can I know what is the address of the particular memory or particular NSV, non-static variable? Then print E1 or print E1 dot ename. Ename is nothing but non-static variable name. So you're going to get the address of the particular variable or particular object. So when you print the object, it is going to be indirect address which you're passing to the method self. Any questions?
Omar.
So by seeing the 4 points, you can understand for every object one memory is going to will be allocated to non-static variable to the class. So EMP E1 will have his own memory of the data and methods. EMP E2 has his own data and methods, and memory is going to be different address. I mean to say, non-static variables of a class can be accessed by all the methods of the same using by self. So if you have different methods within the class, I can able to access non-static variable from one class to other class and one method to another method by using self. If can I use non-static variable outside of the class means we can able to call outside of the class also, but there is a different functionality we need to use. So NSV variables of one class can be accessed from outside of the class by using a reference variable, and with that within the class by using a self. So if you are calling a print option, for example, e- self dot ename equal to Amar. Self is going to be the prefix for NSV, and the ename is going to be the variable name, non-static variable name, and I'm storing a value called Amar. Now I want to print within the method print and the variable. So the variable how I write it is self dot Amar. Instead of writing is instead of writing ename, I'll write it as self dot ename. So whenever you're writing, when you're calling the particular variable, I will prefix with self. But when I'm calling from outside of the class, not within the class, then I will prefix with the object name. So that object name is nothing but E1 equal to class name, whatever you created. In this example, E1 equal to employee. Employee is nothing but a class name, and I stored the address of E1. So when I am calling outside of the class, I'm going to be prefixed with object name. So E1 dot ename. So that is going to be a calling function for your ename. Within the class self, outside of the class object name. Hope you are clear. Amini and Giri. So just for recap purpose, non-static variables should be within the methods. Non-static variables should define by using a self option. Self non-static variable data change for object to object. Non-static variable memory allocated multiple times. Sorry. Non-static variable within the class by using a self. Outside of the class, if you want to be called, then you're going to use a reference variable, nothing but object name. Object is allocated memory for non-static variables. It's not a class creating a memory. It's an object. So object to object, the memory is going to be changed and it's going to be created. The concept of allocating memory for non-static variable of a class at the time of execution of the program is known as object. So the memory is going to be allocated for non-static variables is at object level, not at class level. Instance of the class is known as object. So that is we discussed when it come to static variable itself. So the syntax of object is nothing but reference variable equal to class name. So object creation statement. So reference variable is nothing but object equal to the class name which you are calling. So here the reference variable stores the address of the object, nothing but address of the class. So reference variable means what? Nothing but object. Whenever object is created, that memory location address of the object is taken by the Python interpreter and creates an indirect address of the reference variable. That indirect address is going to be passed to your methods where you have a self, and the particular object whatever you stored, the class will be executed. So that way it works. We can put the data into object, we can get the data from the object, we can call the methods on the object, we can create a number of objects for the same class, single class, different objects of the same class. So, and does not contain the same indirect address. So you can create hundreds of objects and all hundreds of objects will have a different address. It will not be unique address for all. Simple example, how to create your NSV. So first example is, so I'm creating my own class called sample class. class name. So sample is the my class name. A equal to 10. So A equal to 10, do not see the red color lines, just think in your mind. So is it a global variable or static variable?
Global variable.
Global variables always outside of the class, outside of your functions when you're starting your program. So right now, the A is within the class outside of the methods. So it is going to behave like a static variable. Are you getting the difference? Global variable and static variable. In
Yeah.
case if I'm writing A equal to 10 as my first line outside of my class, then that will behave like a global variable. But right now, I'm not writing A equal to 10 outside of my class. I'm writing within the class. I declared my class is a sample, then as a second line, I written A equal to 10. So my A is written within the class and outside of method. So it's going to behave like a static variable. For this class, it is going to be applied, but not for other class. Can I use this A equal to 10 in another class? Means there is a functionality. I'm not saying no. But thing is, this particular A equal to 10 will behave like a static variable, not as a global variable. The reason is within the class, outside of method. Now I am creating my own method, def display within the bracket self. Now I am declaring my two non-static variables, self.x equal to 10, self.y equal to 20. So if you observe here, I am prefixing with self. So if I prefix with self, the variables are created within the method. So we call it as a non-static variables. Is it clear? Any questions?
No, Amar.
Now I want to print a variable and static variable a and non-static variable x and y within the method itself. So print a equal to, and static variable always prefix with class name. Non-static variable, if you are calling within the method, then we are going to prefix with self. So static variable a, we are going to prefix with sample.a, and x and y are non-static variables, so I'm going to prefix with self. This is within the class and within the method. You are accessing the data. Now, once you complete this one, I want to call this sample class by using a reference variable or object. So s1 equal to sample. So the indirect address is going to be stored in s1, and it is going to be instance for your class. Now I want to access my a variable and I want to access my non-static variable x and y. So print outside of the class. I've just given a reference name called outside of the class static variable. So I want to call a static variable outside of the class. So either within the class or outside of the class, the static variable are going to be prefixed with the class name only. So sample.a. And non-static variable, if you want to be accessed outside of the class, then you have to prefix with the object name called s1. So s1.a. So within the class, within the method, you're going to be use self option. Outside of the class, we are going to be prefixed with object name. Is it clear?
Yes, Amar.
You can see here. But there is one step which I missed, that is called s1.display. Display is the method name. So you need to initialize your method also before going to the next level. So we need to initialize s1.display. So the object is s1 and display. In case if you are initializing s1.x and if you're trying to access s1.x and s1.y, sometimes you may get an error saying that the system will give an error. System NSVs are not created or not initialized by object. The reason is the particular method you did not call. So you have to create upfront one more option called s1.display to initialize the method. How to initialize the method? You have to use s1.display. Then you can follow the steps. System will not give an error. So it is a mandatory step. s1.display has to be there. Is it clear? Can I modify my non-static variables outside of the class and store it? Means you can try it like this: s1.x equal 30, s1.y equal to 50. So earlier it was 10 and 20. Now when you're trying to print, system is going to display the numbers. Since I am trying to modify the values outside of the method and outside of the class, I prefix with s1, nothing but object or a reference variable. Now this is another example: static variable and non-static variables. So here class is an employee related information I'm trying to say it, and company equal to TCS. So and company is a common variable for all the employees who are working in TCS. So TCS is going to be like a static variable. Now I want to do two things. One, I need to accept the data from the user, then I need to print those details. So since I want to accept the details, def one method I'm creating, get details is the method name in bracket self. So it's because it's a method within the class. Self.ename. So self is the prefix for any non-static variable. Why I'm telling non-static variable means the names are unique, salary is unique, ID is unique, and designation is unique. Those are not common for all the employees. So I'm taking as non-static variables. I'm accepting the data from user. So input of employee name and input of employee ID, input of employee salary, and input of designation. So there are four information I'm calling, and I'm storing in four different non-static variables. Now by using another method called def put details, this is just a name, method name, self print employee name, and whatever is stored in the previous method is going to be placed here. Though I have two different methods, get details and put details, and the values are stored in one method, and I'm accessing the same value in a different method if that is coming from the same class. So self.ename. So self.ename is the non-static variable where you stored whatever you entered. So system is going to print that information. Employee ID self.eid, employee salary self.esal, employee designation, and company name. Company name is prefixed with your class name because it's a static variable. Any questions? How I created this program, or you want me to show in Python? So till now I explained here. Now I want to call this class. So I'm going to create my instance, nothing but reference variable e1, and I'm storing in emp. Print e1. So the system is going to create an address of e1, nothing but indirect address. Now I'm just calling this. I'm trying to initialize this get details. Then I'm going to initialize put details both. So e1.get details method allocating memory for non-static variables, and e1 for put details for allocating the memory for non-static variables and for printing purpose. Create one more object. I'm just creating one more object, e2 equal to emp. So do you think that this ID and this ID will be the same, e1 and e2? Are different?
No, different.
different. So now system is asking, since system I just given initializing the non-static variables even that get details, system is going to run this method. It is going to be initialize the first method, and it is asking enter employee name. You can see enter employee name. I just entered. Employee ID is some number, salary is something, and designation I'm giving something. And immediately I given put details. Put details are nothing but print options. System is going to run, and it displayed everything. And finally, the company name emp.company. So the system displayed TCS. Now I'm also asking print even. So the address is created. Now I'm just giving the same name, same ID, same information. Where is it? Print. You can see here the IDs are different. Object 1 and object 2, nothing but E1 and E2. The IDs are different. So how many times you can able to create it? Those many number of times get details you can take it, and those many number of times you can take put details. For object to objects are unique IDs. Any questions? Can I modify static variable and non-static variable information outside of the class or within the class? Means we can modify it. So class name a equal to 4.6 and b equal to 2.6, both are static variables because it's a and b are created within the class and outside of the method. Def display self. Def display self. So it is a method, not a function, because self is there and created under class. Self.x equal to 10, self.y equal to 20. Since these are x and y are prefixed with self, these are non-static variables and created within the method. Now, can I print all these things? Means print x value equal to x is a non-static variable, so self.x, and print y value. Y is a non-static variable, so self.y. Now print a value. A is a static variable. You have to prefix with class name, so sample.a, and print b value. B is a static variable, so prefix with class, so sample.b. So I can able to print it. Now I want to modify the data. Self.x equal to self.x 50. So the value whatever I have in self.x will be added another 50 and store it back to self.x. Now self.y is nothing but self.y plus 60. So the value whatever I have for self.y will be added another 60 and stored back to self.y. And sample.a. Sample.a is nothing but the value 4.5 will be added another 70 and stored back to sample.a. Sample.b is going to be add another 80 to the existing value and store it back to b value. Now when you print it, you can able to see the revised numbers. Now there is a fish here. Now I'm trying to create one object and I'm going to display the values. So you can see here print s1 dot display. So I initialize my display method. Now print s1.x and print s1.y. Again I created another object s2 equal to sample, print s2. So the ID is going to be created s2.display and print s2.x and print s2.y. Now my thing is you need to understand one thing, whether the revised values of s1 will be updated to s2 or the whole numbers whatever you have. For example, here when you start s1, initialize it, so the 10 become as 60. So for s2 it will show as 60, or it will start from the scratch like a 10. Are you getting my point? What I'm asking? So for So will it take 60, like x equal to 10 is the first step, and x has been revised as 60, 10 plus 50, store it back to x, so 60. When I start again a new object, will it be considered 60 as x value, or it will take it as 10 value? 60, yeah. Let's see whether it's take 10 or 60. Now, what is your observation?
It took the values after iteration of S1, whatever the values are stored, those are increased by whatever the logic we have in the methods.
So whether the new numbers has been considered for the new object or not for non-static variables x and y,
Mhm.
it is reinitialized. That means x value and y value are non-static variables. When I have my s1 value, it is updated and it is continued. But when it reinitialized by using s2, the system has been taken the old values only. It's not taken new values.
Mhm.
But when you're coming to static variables a and b, the new values, which are revised values of s1, is continued and displayed. So the static variables are not going to be starting from the scratch when you are changing the object to object, but non-static variables are going to be reinitialized and it will be go back to the origin numbers. Are you getting the difference? Static variable and non-static variables when you're modifying object to object, non-static variables will have an influence and it will go back to the scratch value, the initial value. So 10, x equal to 10 and y equal to 20 when you start initializing a new object. But when I come to non-static static variables, there is no changes. It will be continue wherever it stopped. It can be any revised number. So it was stopped b value as 82 and it's continued from 82 only when you start initializing a new object. So non-static variables are not going to be influenced by your object, but non-static variables are reinitializing by object. Are you getting the difference?
Yes, Amar.
So now Amar, which one to be choose? It's totally your call. There is no programmer will tell you you have to use a static variable or non-static variable. It's totally based on your problem statement. You have to decide whether it has to be taken as a non-static variable or a static variable. Once you decide your logic, you will come to know whether to be considered as a non-static variable or a static variable. For example, you are doing the analysis for two different regions, maybe corona number count, and another concept is depths of universe. So depths of universe should not be reinitialized when you come to one method to another method, or one state to another state, or one country to other country. So you can take it as a non-static variable because it should be added. But when I come into object to object, my Andhra Pradesh depths should not be influenced by Telangana depths, or Telangana depths should not be influenced by another depth. So take it as a non-static variable. No, I know it's pretty sad, but thing is, concept-wise, for understanding purpose, I'm telling. Are you getting my point?
Yes, Amar.
So it's a depend on your logic and the requirement. You have to decide whether you have to behave like a static variable or a non-static variable. Now the last example. This is for your understanding purpose. I'm giving as an example. Now the requirement is don't see the program. I'm just asking a customer application where you have to have an option to enter the customer details, customer account number, customer address, and customer balance in one method, and those information has to print for confirmation. Once you add a new deposit, assume that you are a bank customer. Once you deposit a new amount, it has to be added to your past balance. Once you withdraw, the amount has to be deducted from your existing balance, and finally it has to give an outcome saying that this is the total balance. Are you getting my point? One is for withdraw. Don't see how many methods are created. You may create more than that, or you may create less than that. I want you should be in a position to withdraw the money. Once you withdraw the money, the total balance has to be revised. Once you deposit new money, it has to be accept, and the total balance accordingly it has to be changed. And you need to enter the customer information. Right now we don't have any backend data source, so just give the input, system give a confirmation. This is the customer name, this is the account balance, existing account balance maybe 1 lakh. So withdraw some amount and deposit some amount. So the system has to show after depositing what is your net balance, after withdrawing what is the total net balance. That is the thing what I want. Are you getting my point?
Yeah, Amar.
So do not worry, just try to understand the logic. That is very basic. If you don't know, don't worry. The logic is already in place with an example 4. I'm not expecting you to see it. It's already executed and I tested, it's working fine. But my intention is you have to identify the logic,
Yeah.
how to create a logic. If you fail to find the logic, then you could have a look on that. Still,
Mm.
if you're not getting, tomorrow I'll explain you.
Okay.
Any questions, Kiri?
Homework.
So we'll continue tomorrow. This is an assignment for just for a small assignment for a 1 or 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Don't invest more time. Invest another time. The methods are requested for my case study, the bigger one.
Okay.
Yeah.